Afternoon all. Welcome back to webinar number 3 of series 2. I'm going to call it series 2 because we had a bit of a break from last year. So we're bringing back the webinar series, as you all know. This is the 3rd one we've done. 4th one, actually, I think. Get mistaken already. We've done a bit with energy costs, price increases, and we did an education webinar last week about running your own PT courses. So we're bringing these back in, hopefully in a big way. Hopefully they're all useful content for you. Today's webinar is hosted by Shannon from Ashbourne Management. I'm sure you all know who Ashbourne Management are and what they do, but no doubt Shannon will give you a quick rundown anyway. And we're talking about retention, essentially sort of simple ways to keep your members for longer. Hopefully there's some really simple takeaways that you can implement if you're not already doing so. But yeah, it's in the hands of Shannon to explain all that. Obviously, we are recording this. We will share it in the group if you want to rewatch. Other than that, I think Shannon, we're over to you.
Thanks, Rob. Hi everyone. How's it going? So, as Rob alluded to, I work with Ashbourne, and we brought this presentation for you guys just to help bring on board some ideas on how to retain your members for longer. It's been an ongoing issue that we've seen amongst not only customers, but gyms that we've been reaching out to on a regular basis. My role within Ashbourne is new business development. So I do have quite a lot of conversations with gyms, and it seems to be a recurring theme that we're seeing more and more after lockdown. And it's something that we definitely want to shed a bit of light to it really for you guys. So let's crack on. So I guess the Ashbourne side of it here, what we can bring to you guys is we have a test club, the Fit Club Redditch, which we actually manage. We implement all of these strategies within that gym. It's for anyone who doesn't know the Fit Club in Redditch, it's a 16,000 square foot facility, and it's managed by us. And obviously, yeah, all the strategies that we're going to implement in there, they work, and then we know we roll them out to our customers, and then obviously bring some of those ideas to you guys in this as well. So we also have over 1,000 partner clubs in the UK and Ireland currently that use these strategies, so they work. So you can be sure that, you know, there's some good ideas and easy to implement. So let's crack on and have a look and see where we bring that with. So I guess let's look at the numbers. So the first thing to really see here, it's quite a shocking number. 50% of your members are quitting in the first 6 months. And to be honest, as we know, how difficult it is to get members in the door in the first place, to see such a large portion of them not keeping themselves going to the gym, getting the most out of your service, it's quite a shock. And this is actually the most current data that we've seen in 2022. So it's up to date. So what is the thing that's actually keeping your members from coming back to your gym on a daily basis? So let's have a look. So the members who did stay, 87% of them praised a positive onboarding process. So we obviously will touch on how important onboarding is throughout this webinar as well, but we'll break it down into a couple of different points. But we can see here how important it is that your staff's presence and onboarding of the member is to the actual retention of them. So I guess let's look at the 3 reasons why your members are even in your club in the first place. So obviously location is a massive factor for people, where it's convenient for them to go to the gym. We've also got 45% that love the staff, and that's what half of the people who are coming to your gym are praising the fact that your staff are the reason that they're staying. So I think that's a super important note there. 38% as well on equipment. So these are obviously 3 things that some of the things we have more control over than others. We don't want to give you any unrealistic ideas saying you need to move your club or, you know, buy lots of new equipment in order to retain your members easier. So we're going to try and give you kind of simple strategies that you can implement right now, as opposed to maybe some more long-term solutions to this. So yeah, only focus on what you can control right now. So on the note of customer service, we're obviously going to start off with talking about finances and contracts, because although it might seem like a no-brainer, a lot of gym owners shy away from having a 12-month contract in place for the fear that they might actually, you know, turn members off wanting to join, because not everybody wants a contract, and that is understandable. But let's have a little look at what way that's going to affect your business just by purely implementing a 12-month contract, which is an easy thing to just implement straight away. So we can see here from the data that five times more costly to find a customer than it is to retain one. So if you think of all the money that you're spending on your marketing to get them in there, obviously if, you know, 50% of the members that have joined from the previous slide that we saw are leaving, that's money obviously wasted. So we want to try and keep them instead of just having a high turnover of members coming through the door. So on to the next point, 5% increase in retention can increase profits from 25 to 95%. So, I mean, that says it all. The numbers speak volumes there. We know how much of an impact that can have. 5% of card payments fail. So this is something that we see quite often. And also I'll touch on this in a little minute, but there's a few different ways of implementing a contract with your members. And obviously there's different methods of taking payment for your memberships. So at Ashbourne, what we generally recommend doing is having a direct debit system in place, but there's a few different methods of taking payment from your customers. So the ones that you would see, generally speaking, would be your standing orders, recurring card payments, and direct debits. So I guess let's touch on what are the kind of pros and cons for each. So recurring card payments would be...
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Recurring card payment is an easy one for you guys to set up, but obviously bear in mind the fact that if the member's card expires or they lose the card, it leaves them open to obviously finishing their membership before they might even want to. So it's just something to consider if you're going to be using that method of payment, to have a 12-month membership in place. Also, then having a direct debit is going to give you a lot more control. You as the business can set it up, and if they cancel, then obviously they're in breach of that contract. Then obviously standing orders is the other one that we do see probably the most regularly of customers that aren't with us. When they're coming to us is the strategy that they use, but we do find that standing orders are a little bit risky for the business, in the sense that it puts all of the control in the hands of your members, so they can just cancel at any stage without much repercussion really. And also if they miss a payment, then you might not actually get any payment notification. So that's a big thing, where if someone's missed one and you don't have say a turnstile in place or an easy way of identifying that, they could be using your club for days or even weeks, I've seen in the past actually, with some people, without actually paying. So that's just something to consider. If you're going to place a 12-month contract as an option for your members, just obviously bear in mind that you do need to have a staff member or a third-party company involved who will do the follow-ups on your behalf, or do the follow-up yourself. So obviously that's going to take time. That's going to be man hours if you want to do that yourself. So I mean, Ashbourne, we do that for our customers. So it's totally up to yourselves what way you want to do it. But just to consider that if you are going to implement this 12-month contract, there is going to be that side of the administration as well that needs to be taken into consideration before we actually go and put that in place. But I mean, use it as an opportunity to give your members a cheaper membership as well. Like people, I don't know about you, but I personally, if I was going to join a gym, kind of expect there to be an option for a 12-month contract, because generally speaking, I'm not going to move location in the next 12 months. I know it's going to commit me for a longer period. I can give, you know, you could give your members just a slightly discount for that 12-month contract and implement that straight away. So let's go on to the next point. So this is kind of what we saw really in the previous slide on how important the onboarding process is for your members. And I think the key for retention is customer consumption. So what's going to keep your members actually using the gym on a regular basis? And it seems to be, from what we've seen, is the onboarding and the staff mostly. So it's a lot more difficult to quit a relationship that you have than it is to just quit a gym. So if you've kind of built those grounds with your members and implemented this onboarding process, much less likely for them to actually feel like they want to leave. So just a few points here, guys, that we'll run through. So first one here, really going back to the staff. So making your member interaction a job responsibility. I think that, like, I've worked in gyms myself. I know that, you know, we're often run off the feet. Instructors are tired. You know, it's not an easy job. We do it because we love it, and it's not easy to be enthusiastic 100% of the time. So we recommend having something really simple implemented into like the staff contracts, like something simple like just that they have to say hello and goodbye. If you're looking at your front of house receptionist, for example, maybe even writing something into their contract like a simple hello and goodbye every time someone comes in. Might seem really simple, but it's effective, and you know, it makes a difference for sure when people know that they're being noticed when they're walking through the front door. It's their first point of contact. So the second one we've got, so we don't recommend using sticky notes, by the way. So systemizing, making notes on your members. So again, it's just kind of getting to know them more, making sure that they feel like that they're being valued. It depends on what system you want to use for having notes for your members. Obviously, if you've got a software in place that allows you to write notes about them specifically, that's great. Like, I mean, our one allows you to put in personalized notes on the member, but whatever method you want to use, guys, just make sure that every single staff that you have has access to the same database so that I can see exactly what the front of house can see, and so on, so on. So just having kind of a general database is important. Next one we've got, so creating some rewards for your staff. So to get feedback. So feedback is one of those things, like, you know, I think it's super important to get it, whether it's good or bad, because obviously constructive criticism is just as important, if not more important, than getting positive feedback. So this is actually something we do within Ashbourne in our own office. We have a reward scheme where if somebody gets a good review on Trustpilot, we, you know, give them bottle of wine or some chocolates, and they kind of, it just incentivizes the staff to just go that extra mile, and it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. It can just be something simple, but I know it makes a big difference. Even, you know, the person with the best feedback forms gets staff member of the month, or whatever your ideas want to be. Just getting the staff on board with it as well helps massively. So combining this with an active PT push to get more sales. So being a personal trainer myself and knowing exactly the education that goes into getting that qualification, I don't think an awful lot of sales is given to the new PTs when they're learning about how to obviously be a personal trainer. So giving them a little bit more of a support network and training on how to actually approach people in the gym, because although it might be where they feel the most comfortable, not all people, even PTs, are confident about just walking up to somebody and saying, oh, hello, how are you doing? Because at the end of the day, that takes some guts, doesn't it? So not all PTs are like that, and they should be, but it's not always taught. So I guess just getting them out onto the gym floor a little bit more, get their presence seen more on the gym floor, and just have it as a little bit more of the norm that you can kind of rock up to a member and ask them how they're getting on. And that's just considered part of their job. So finally, then coming on to automating the areas of your club. So depending on what your setup is in your gym, you might have a reception at the main front of the gym, or you might have an actual separate reception within the gym and then a second reception at the front. So this will obviously depend on what way you guys want to have it set up. But in terms of automating those areas, we could put in like turnstiles, kiosks, that kind of thing. Obviously, you want to have a presence in the gym for people when they're coming in first. So if you do have a front of house receptionist at the front desk, and then you've got a separate desk reception within the gym, just make sure your staff aren't just huddled around that desk in the gym, because I know, kind of referring back to the first point, make it a responsibility within their job that they are, you know, out on the gym floor speaking to members, and they're not just huddled in the back office or in the reception in the desk. Because speaking from experience, it's easy to do it when you're tired, you've just taught a class, all you want to do is sit down. But you know what, it is part of the job. So just reminding your staff that that is their responsibility. Right. So, okay, benefits of a long onboarding process. So we've kind of looked at stage 1 of the onboarding. This is kind of the touch points that we want to see after the members join. So onboarding isn't as simple as just welcome to the gym, on your way, good luck. We want to see more automated processes that are kind of giving your members the full information that they require to make the full use of your facilities. Going back to my previous point about consumption, the more information that they have about your gym, where everything is, makes them feel at ease, makes them consume the service more. Therefore, they get the most out of it and they'll keep coming back and they'll get results. So it all feeds into each other. So yeah, regular contact breeds loyalty. So they're familiarizing themselves with the gym, whether it be from home because they're getting emails from you, or whether it's because they're in the gym and they've got somebody giving them a proper tour or whatever that might be. Never assume your member knows something. So, I mean, we're all a bit guilty of this. We're fitness professionals. We understand the ins and outs of the gym. We know, we feel comfortable, but most people, Mary, for example, coming into the gym for her first time, hasn't got a bloody clue what she's doing. So let's just, remind ourselves of that and just make sure that we're considerate towards them so that they can overcome that gym intimidation that new members have. And generally speaking, they come in, they get frightened, and then they won't come back. So it's trying to reduce that, obviously, as much as possible. So I've just got an example of what we would consider a good onboarding journey for an email automation. So this is something that at Ashbourne we offer as part of our service. We have an active CRM. If you do have a CRM system in place that allows you to just automate this process, happy days. But if not, just obviously bear in mind, it's going to be a lot more manual administration for yourself and your staff. We don't want that to detract away from how much attention your members are getting in person. So just obviously weigh out the positives and the negatives and don't put too much time into it manually. Try to automate as much as possible would be our advice. So here's an example. So week 1, welcome your member to the gym and give them directions. Really simple. Here's the changing rooms. Here's the ladies area. All of these different things that might seem really straightforward, but to someone coming into the gym, it's a big deal. So they need to know where these things are. So week 2, so you could leave it a week and then contact them again. Recommend classes for your members to use. So this is kind of going back to as well how they've been onboarded. When the member joins, do you know what their interests are, what their needs are? I think getting specific with them and their goals is super important. And it's why small group training facilities are doing so well, because it's so personalized and a member isn't just coming in and then everyone assumes they're just there to lose weight. Someone might be there for, they want to rehab their shoulder, they want to learn swimming, they want to do, yoga or whatever that might be. So trying to get as much of that information when that member joins will allow you to kind of specifically cater to those needs during these automation processes as well. So yeah, recommending those classes based on what their goals are. So week 3, inviting your members for a follow-up on their induction. So this is something that we do. So in the Fit Club, for example, we have the rebooking of their induction sent out before their first automation finishes, so that we're not waiting for the members to approach us to try and book that second induction back in, because I think we can all agree that most members who do their first induction don't do a second one. That's just my experience anyway, what I've seen in the gym. So it's about trying to those regular touch points, getting them back in, getting them engaged, and making sure that you're helping them progress with their plan and get results, essentially. So week 4, ask your members for a feedback form and their thoughts. Again, just feedback in general is just super useful for helping for retention. So yeah, we can kind of agree on that one. Week 5, a friendly check-in with some fitness tips and advice. So again, it's all about the extra mile, these extra little bits of service that you're giving to your new members that are going to allow them to see, oh my God, these guys actually care about me getting these results. They're not just here to sell me a membership. I think that's really important. So you've got fitness professionals there. They love their job. They know what they're talking about. Use them to your advantage. Get them on board with this. Get them writing articles, blogs, nutrition advice, and also use it to upsell some personal training as well. It's another super useful tool for that. So then I guess the final week 6 email, an example, invite your member to attend a class with a friend. So there's loads of evidence to suggest that people who come with a person are more likely to retain and keep coming back. I guess it's just that familiar face in the gym with them just puts them at ease, a little gym buddy. So yeah, definitely recommend having that. And then it's also a potential new member for you if someone's brought a friend to the gym. So, you know, you can double that up as well. Right, on to point number 4. So get your numbers together. So this might seem quite simple, but I guess it's just the practicalities of it. So before you can solve the problem, you have to know how bad the problem is. Does your system tell you all of these things? And if it does, fantastic, because knowledge is power in anything. So if it doesn't, maybe need to look at something, implementing a system in place that you can see all of these figures. So your sleeping members. So, I mean, this is a thing that all gyms have, and I don't think it should be, we don't believe that sleeping members should be just left to their own devices. We believe that if the members are using this, if they're not using the service, they're going to leave anyway. I don't think there's any point really avoiding them. But again, just important to know how many of your members are paying and not actually using it. So then active members, so how many members in total have you got? So this gives you obviously just your kind of general membership base. And then non-paying members, how many members are using your gym but not paying? And it's higher than you think. Yes, it is higher than you think. And obviously gyms with turnstiles and access control will be able to limit the amount of members that are coming in without paying. But that being said, you know, people find ways around everything if they really want to. But obviously, if you've no turnstile, you're completely wide open to this. One example that I'll just quickly mention was we had a recent gym that we took on board who's been around for many, many years. And they had one member who, it was a tennis club. They had one member who was top of the league. You know, he'd been a member for, I think, 15 years or something. And we actually just implemented turnstile. We just installed one in, and he'd been using the facility like every single day. The receptionist just waved him in because it was a familiar face. And in the end, when the turnstile went in, it was found out that he had actually not paid for 12 years, like 12 years. That is insane. So just something to note, you know, because we always see the same familiar faces, and it can be a little bit awkward if you want to try pull people up on payments and stuff. But that's why we recommend obviously putting a turnstile in, because it takes the human element out of it. You can say the turnstile hasn't let you in, not us. So these different things just to note. Right, on to the next point, guys. So we've got community building, super important, especially within the independent gym community. What differs independent gyms from the chains is this, in my opinion, is having that, going that extra mile for your members and getting them all involved. So just a few ideas, guys. I won't run through absolutely every single one of them, but you can kind of see there on the screen. So some quiz nights and classes for older members. You know, depending on what your demographic and what memberships you're trying to target, really, it's going to, you know, help you pick what methods you want to use. So having different clubs within your club, like swimming clubs or ladies lifting clubs, things like this. Classes, obviously, if you're not doing classes, we would definitely recommend putting classes on. Yeah, and then bring a friend for 3 days, different master classes and such. There's a few there for some leisure centers as well. So if you have a pool, if you know, you can implement things like a mini Ironman and swimming clubs and that kind of thing. So just make the gym a little bit more than just a gym, really. Make it a social side of it as well, and give people that sense of community where they can actually make friends and build relationships with people that they will have for life, essentially. So all of those ideas, those themed quizzes, those classes, master classes, they can all be used for your marketing. So it all doubles up, which is great, because social media, you can just take pictures. You can make your gym, make people see how much of a fun place your gym is really easily just by recycling these different ideas that you have. Okay, so getting through them now. So on to point 6, just making your gym more of a holistic space. So we know how much of a trend this is now. Obviously, mental health, physical health, but also just giving your members the full package, offering more than just a gym floor experience within the gym is super important. So providing them with diet help, mindset, mental health, it all helps your members. And we know they all go hand in hand anyway. So yeah, so just cutting out the middleman, really. Your members use lots of third-party apps and blogs for health advice. So we don't want your members to have to search elsewhere for information that you quite easily have. Or if not you, someone there has. Everybody has their own little niche. Each fitness professional can help with different things. So here's just a few ways of just kind of implementing that. Emailing your members with some dietary tips, fitness tips, kind of like the onboarding, like we spoke about before. Social media. So I would recommend looking at your social media and seeing how many posts on your social media are selling something versus providing value. Because the first thing when people go onto an Instagram, for example, they don't want to just be sold to. They want to actually get content that is going to help them towards their goals. They want to, this is what they want to see. So just something to have a little look at as well. So yeah, blogs, another one as well. You can get your PTs involved. I mean, if being a PT myself, I would jump at any opportunity to get involved and get content out there, because in my opinion, it's more exposure for me. Therefore, I have more opportunity to get more clients. So they should be jumping at the chance to offer up all of these advices and blogs and content. So yeah, and then some PDF resources as well. So this is something that we've implemented with the Fit Club a lot recently, guys. This is just partnering up with some local businesses to add more values to your membership. So physios, nutritionists, doctors, health food shops, companies that align the goals with yours and complement what you guys are trying to achieve and your message that you're trying to bring. So maybe pairing up with your local GP, asking them if they can refer patients to you guys, maybe for mental health or even just fitness reasons. Like, I mean, it's no secret that obesity is a massive thing, and doctors should be referring to gyms more. And to be fair, they are more and more now. So that's great to see. It's kind of contradicting. I know I said we don't want people to go elsewhere for other things, but also don't be afraid to outsource to the professionals in other areas as well. That's super normal, and it should be made sure that we're not trying to work with outside of our scope of practice as fitness professionals. So you can provide your members with discounts, super easy, 10% off in the health food shop. They can do the same. So point 7, consider a members app. So a couple of things obviously to bear in mind. This is going to be a little bit more costly. If you don't have an app in place already, looking at implementing this might be a little bit more of a long-term thing. So depending on how you want to go about getting one, you might have to pay an app developer to do this for you, or you might have a membership management company like Ashbourne doing that for you. So it just depends on what way you want to go with that one. But we strongly recommend looking at this, because 90% of our mobile time is spent using apps. I mean, that's compared to just using website browsers. So that's crazy. People are more likely as well to check notifications from an app than an email. So, although don't be, worried about emailing people, and don't be afraid of repeating yourself in emails. But I do think that apps are very specific, and you can get that point across just from a notification from a specific app. I think that's really good. Find new ways to contact your members. So easily pushing notifications through to them on your app. That's just a simple one. Changing their mindset by allowing them to track their behavior in the app. So this is just adding more value to their membership again, allowing them to track their workouts, allowing them to put their body pictures in, their progress pictures, nutrition, any on-demand videos. Things like this are all going to add extra value. So for example, just using the Ashbourne app as an example, because that's the one that I know, We have on-demand videos. So if a member can't make the gym for whatever reason, or they're away, they can access thousands of on-demand videos, and they can do that from home, but they can't access it unless they're paying. So that's the key, is that it's linked up to your payment. So you're not just building your members an app that they can then crack on and just leave the gym. They have to be engaging with the gym as well, because that's what we want. We want them in the gym as much as possible. So create a new app only membership. The Fit Club do this actually. I think they sell an app only membership for $5. So it's just another thing you can add on there as well. Say some people who might live further away to go, or aren't comfortable going to the gym yet, but want to start, they have access to your app just from paying $5 a month. So yeah, people are 24 times more likely to click and open a notification from an app. That's crazy. So just one thing to consider, guys. So final point then, find out why your members have stopped coming. I'm assuming most of you will have an outboarding process, but we obviously need to touch on it anyway. So 1 out of 26 members will actually voice a complaint. So the rest just leave. And we don't know why unless we ask. So feedback. Obviously, you know, you can't keep everybody. Things change, circumstances change. But if there's a recurring theme in the reason why people are leaving, that just gives you that extra bit of ammunition to put in place so that you can improve things that might need improving. So yeah, get as much data as you can from your members. Even if they've left, they can still give you value of insight into your business. So make exit surveys a key part of your outboarding process. So you can automate that. Again, what I would recommend doing for sure. It starts getting very difficult manually doing all of these things when you've got an onboarding, you've got marketing, you've also got now outboarding as well. So yeah, definitely trying to streamline that is recommended. So here's a bonus tip. So just change your gym's layout. So this is, yeah, super easy and free, and doesn't take a whole lot of time. You might not want to go out and buy loads of new kit, but what you can do is move things around, make the gym more inviting to your members. I'm actually a member in a gym, and they've just recently done this, and the difference of the vibe that it's given off just from a fresh lick of paint and spreading the machines out, creating more space so that when you walk in, it's not just a cluster of kit, is crazy. So yeah, definitely seen this firsthand myself, how useful this tip can be. So yeah, just freshen it up. What's the first thing your gym members see when they walk into the gym? Is it a load of people, you know, throwing barbells around, doing like, you know, big lifts? Is it a bit intimidating for some of your members? Maybe face certain machines a certain way so that, you know, people just feel comfortable, because that is what we're trying to, you know, let people feel as most comfortable as possible. Then they'll come back and hopefully boost their attention easily enough that way. Oh, well, I've just kind of gone through this whole thing, but just a couple of things to note then, I guess. Make it open, make it more inviting, freshen up the place, nice lick of paint if it needs it, clearer to use for new members, make sure that they know exactly where everything is. And this can all be given in advance in their onboarding email, but just when they walk in anyway, make the place seem like somewhere they want to spend a lot of their time, because that's the goal, isn't it? So that kind of brings me up to the end, guys. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I hope you've kind of taken some points away there. And obviously, I'm open for any questions. If anybody has anything in particular that they'd like to ask about any of the points touched on, or Ashbourne in general. But I'll pass it over to Rob anyways. So yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Well, Shannon, thank you very much. Really interesting listen that one. I think you managed to shave 10 minutes off your time from your Ireland Active as well. So well done. Did
you notice I was talking extra fast?
It was good. I talk that fast normally, so I try to slow myself down and sped yourself up. So very good. I've scribbled loads of stuff down, so I'll probably be a bit selective. Okay. Anyone listening, if you want to unmute yourself, if you've got any questions, feel free to unmute and just ask, or throw them into the chat down the bottom. That's all good. I was getting a bit sort of philosophical about all this over the last few days, and I came up with, it's a little bit preachy. I came up with this thing about retention isn't just a job or a task. It's about everything that you do within your club, and I think you've kind of summarised that through the presentation. It's not just about talking to your members more. It's not just about asking why they're leaving. It's everything from the kit to the cleaning to the friendly staff. So it's literally the more you can do and the better the place is. People want to be in your gym, they'll stay. And if there's reasons to leave, they'll leave. And it's just sort of removing those reasons, isn't it? I think so. Summed it up well. I think summed it up well. Quick question for you. You talked about sleeper members at the beginning. How have you found since lockdown? Because obviously lockdown came, sleeper members realised that they were the sleeper members, probably cancelled.
Yeah.
Is there any new stats around sleeper members, or have you got any sort of? How is it? Are they coming back? I suppose we're probably a year in now of being reopened properly without any sort of major impact. So, are you seeing sleeper members return and the non-active ones?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you've kind of alluded to it there. Lockdown got rid of a lot of the sleeping members because obviously everyone's membership was cancelled or frozen during lockdown, and therefore they didn't have to, pay for a membership at all. It was cancelled for them on their behalf. So that was, maybe a bit of a nightmare for some gyms. But I think from Ashbourne side of it, have we seen people come back? Yes, for sure. More and more. And especially we've noticed a trend because obviously we're in Ireland and in the UK. And I think in the UK, it's a little bit ahead of Ireland at the moment, just because maybe due to the fact that lockdown has been, finished for longer. We're definitely seeing the number of direct debits that we're collecting going up. So that would kind of we haven't had any proper surveys yet, but it is something that we're currently looking at doing. We kind of do something like this every quarter or so. So we hopefully will have a little bit more stats on that. But for now, anyway, from what the direct debits are saying, I would say, yeah, for sure, we're getting more back.
That's good news. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'll go through some of your points. Talked about contracts. I think contracts were always an interesting topic, particularly from independents. I think there's a hesitancy to introduce contracts. I think it comes down to the individual. And I'm probably going to sort of name drop in a bit. Paul Bedford did a webinar with us, and he's got statistics, and I can't remember the exact ones, but essentially said members stay longer if they're in a contract, even if you don't enforce the contract if they want to leave. It's a perception of being tied in that they'll naturally stick around. Obviously, at the end of the contract, if a member wants to leave halfway through, it's the sort of thing you can hold them to it or you can let them go. But just by the thought of being in that contract, they tend to stick around for longer. So that was more of a statement, more of an observation.
I was like, where's the question? No, that's grand. We see that as well, Rob. I mean, it just depends. We've got different gym owners or, have different wants and needs from us as a company. Like we obviously do debt recovery on our customers' behalf. So that is something that we do implement. Like anyone who has a contract, if someone misses a payment, we follow that up. However, if a gym owner said, you know what, I don't want you to do that, we wouldn't do it. So it just depends on, the individual basis. I think it's something that you can either generalize or you can make it quite personal on an individual basis. And that depends on the facility. How many members have they got? Like, are they dealing with thousands of members? Because then that gets a little bit more difficult if everyone's just cancelling willy-nilly and, Tom saying to Harry, oh, do you know what, I cancelled, nothing happened, then no one, people think there's no repercussions for cancelling. And I don't know about you, I just wouldn't cancel a membership that I knew I was in a contract with because I'd be too scared. But people do these things and it is unavoidable to a degree, but obviously managing that the best you can is what we want to do, really.
Yeah, definitely. I've spoken with a few gyms where they have a contract in place. They have the two options, a monthly and a contract option. Yeah. And where the contract option, if that member decides they want to cancel, they just ask them to essentially fill the gap of what the discount they would have had. So if they're with us with the gym for 6 months on a 12-month contract, let's say it's £10 a month cheaper. If they want to leave, it's 0.6. They just back pay the £10 a month they've saved, and it brings them in line with the non-contract members. So I think that's almost a good halfway house.
Well, yeah, I can see that. I guess from our point of view, like we don't want to be too aggressive in the way that we're trying to pursue unpaid monies, because ultimately the goal of any recovery of any funds owed is to get them back in the gym, because that is where the consumption part comes back into play, and that's where the people will stay. So it's not a case of, you know, we just want to get that last 50 quid that they owe. I think what's important is actually getting that member back using the gym. And that's what we try to do here. And that's what we would advise anyone who's trying to pursue money. Find out why they're going. Why have they not, you know, paid the rest of their contract? Of course, they're out of contract, but we want to make sure that we're trying to get them back in the door. That's the goal.
Yeah, agreed. And that kind of, I'm going to jump right to the last point I scribbled down. And I put down here, make it easy to leave, but easier to return. So in a way, have that questionnaire at the end, but, you know, make it easy for them to be able to put their notice in to leave, but give them that invite and the olive branch so they can come back easily as well.
Yeah, and that's actually funny you say. That's kind of the way we are with Ashbourne, with the gyms, because we don't like, you know, I think tying people down is one thing, but I don't know if you've got much of an insight into how difficult it might be changing software provider, but I just know that from what I've heard, it can be an extremely difficult and frustrating process. And we kind of want to make it easy for gyms to come on board with us and leave, in the sense that they can come back as easily. And it should be implemented that way within the gyms for members as well. I mean, is it as easy as the member coming up and just signing it online, as opposed to having to actually walk into the gym, go through the whole kind of physical side of it, having to walk back up and say, oh, I'm back kind of thing? Or can they just sign up online discreetly if they want and kind of come back in and say, do you know what, I fell off the wagon for a couple of months, but I'm back now, but no one even knew because I didn't even have to tell anyone.
I think that's the key, is make it simple just to get yourself back in the door.
Definitely.
But then at the same time, I think if you've got you talked about increasing staff presence, and I've made a note, and interaction. And if your staff are interacting with your members more, they'll remember who these people are. And when they do sneak back in the door, be like, oh, how you doing? And it's that welcome back presence as well, which starts that onboarding process all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having some retention data on your members is also another thing that you could look at. I know like our software does it, but I'm sure a lot of others do as well, that when a member comes in and scans in at the gate or whatever entrance you might have, maybe some retention information can flash up on the screen, because that's actually giving your front of house a bit of a heads up that member needs a little bit more care. You know, you might have a traffic light system or something in place. So if somebody hasn't been in the last month or the last week, it might flash up amber or red, and then at least and this is what receptionists should be. They should be proactive. I mean, I've worked in both reception, front of house, and in the gym as well. I think the person on reception needs to be a little bit ballsy and like actually go out of the way to speak to people as much as physically possible. I think that's super important.
I agree. When I used to work at David Lloyd, we'd have a reception as well. I was 18 and 19 at the time, but we have to say hello to every single member that came through the door.
Exactly.
And it was non-negotiable. You just had to say hello, because that kick-started the conversation, made them feel welcome.
Exactly. It's like that, like kind of referring back to what I said, like write it in their contract. If it's in your contract, it's in your contract. It's part of your job role. So, you know, I think that first thing that the member sees when they come in is going to set the ball rolling for the type of experience that they're going to have with your facility. 100%.
Yeah, and that probably touches. This will be my last point, and then I'll let you go. Talking about the non-paying members, and that's obviously when a member comes through the door. I find it fascinating when somebody's spent 12 years not paying and just coming in. Personally, I'd be mortified if I got caught doing that. I think it'd be embarrassed. But I think it happens more and more, because a lot of people do push the boundaries of what they can get away with. They get away with it once and they'll keep doing it.
They do.
Obviously, implementing turnstiles can be a fairly significant investment, maybe not huge, but you know, it's still a significant investment. But how do you find in terms of things like just scanning in as you come through, whether it's a QR code, a PIN number, a thumbprint? How easy are those sorts of things to implement?
Without a turnstile?
Yeah,
easy. Like, I mean, that's something that's super simple, but can you trust people to do it? That's the thing. I think it just depends on whether you want to have a staff member at reception who's actually watching people as they come in, scanning their fingerprint or their card, or do you want to have just an entrance with no receptionist? I think that depends on yourselves, like what you want to do. But in terms of actually implementing it, yeah, that's super easy, and it's not very expensive. Just to pop a fingerprint reader on there. I mean, I would expect all gyms to have at very least something to scan in. I think if there's not something to scan in, you've got absolutely no idea who's in your gym, and that leaves you open liability wise as well. I think that's another thing to obviously be careful about, is that, are the people who are in there even paying, and are they even members? Have they ever been members? Like, they could have any sort of health issues. They've never signed a contract. So God knows if something happened, like, it just leaves you open for liability, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, part of that is having the statistics around visits, so that you can then pick up on the ones that aren't visiting. So when we talk about sleeping members, you ideally want all your members to be active in your club. And if you can pick up those sleeping members, knowing if they've scanned in, that's key for me. And if they haven't scanned in, but they're still active in your club, you should be able to pick those up and then prompt them into scanning in as you go. But I think tying that in with maybe not a permanent receptionist as such, but somebody on the desk as people are coming through the door, and having the two tied together, that ties in with interacting with your members more, but using the technology to ensure you can get the statistic and ensure everyone's paying as they come through the door.
No, definitely. And that's, look, like, knowledge is power. If you know exactly all of the numbers, it's going back to the numbers thing again, like, that's just going to allow you to reach out to the right people, and or not. Like, it just depends on what way you want to do it. Some people avoid speaking to people who don't come. I don't agree with that. We don't agree with that in Ashbourne. We don't think that works at all. But a lot of gyms do that. So yeah, I guess it works on both sides. You can approach them or you can ignore them and hope for the best. But we think that if they're not using it, they're going to leave anyway.
Yeah. And let's face it, if you're ignoring your members, you may as well send them to Pure Gym, because that's what Pure Gym is.
Exactly. And that is exactly it. Like, they've got such a high turnover of members. Independent gyms, rely on that extra bit of loyalty, service, and community. So unless you're actually making that part of the business, like, exactly what is going to keep them going to your club that might be 20-30 pounds more, or even more than what they would pay for a Pure Gym, and they can just be a number in there, so.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Right. Yeah. I'm done with all my points. Steve, I don't know if you've got any questions to ask or anything to add. Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. I'll keep chatting for now.
Thanks for it, Evan. Thanks, Shannon, for the tour. All I'd ask is, with the more national chain gyms, most of them have a 12-month contract, or are most of them non-contract now?
In terms of the commercial big chains or independent chains?
The commercial big ones.
I think it varies. I think some of them do still keep that, but I think less now actually than used to. So whether that, I think, to be honest, it's probably more to the fact that they're so cheap anyway. I don't think they can really offer that much extra benefit for a 12-month contract. I mean, how cheap can they go?
I think that's the only thing that I'd probably put off independent gyms putting in a 12-month contract, when there's a lot of other gyms where it's just no contracts at all.
Yes.
I think for a lot of people, that's a good buy-in thing. Whereas I think if we did 12-month contracts with our members, I think it's quite a big commitment for a lot of people to commit to.
Yeah, no, agreed. And to be fair, you're not wrong. People do sometimes see it as a little bit too much of a commitment, but I guess if you can kind of spin it in a way that they're getting a better deal money wise, or maybe they get a couple of free sessions, or add a little bit of extra value for it as well, because obviously that's guaranteed monies for you. But not only is it guaranteed monies for you, it is a little bit more of a guaranteed commitment from them. And whether people know it or not, people need to be more committed to the gym themselves anyway. So we're kind of just pushing them down the road they do need to go. But like I kind of said, it just depends what way you want to do it. We've got some gyms who have a rolling contract. We've got some gyms that have a 12-month contract. Some gyms, the 12-month contract works amazingly well, and others just prefer to just do it, like you say, on a monthly basis. But I don't think that independent gyms need to worry about competing with the bigger ones as much, because they're just so different. I would always pick personally to join an independent gym over a commercial gym as a member myself. And I would imagine a lot of people are like that. I mean, if it's coming down to price at the end of the day, people will just go to the big chains anyway. So you have to just offer that extra bit of service anyway. And then, you know, that's separating you from Pure Gym and all the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks for the question.
Fantastic. Right. I think in that case, I think we're done. So yeah, let's call it a day. Shannon, thank you very much for hosting. Did a cracking job.
You're more than welcome.
We'll look forward to the next one. I'm sure Harvey's going to put you forward for all of them now. So on that note, we've got a few more coming up. If you're listening to this on replay, we've got a few more coming up from some brand specific sort of mini sales pitches, I suppose, some more meet the brand type webinars. And we've got some other educational content as well. So we'll announce in the group any questions, obviously, anything you want to see, fire a message over to me as well. But on that note, Shannon, thank you very much. And we'll call it a day there.
Thanks, Rob. Cheers.